Now, I want to start off by looking at another way of doubling a sound on another pad. Here in the field, we have first and second, and it shows us the note that the sound is programmed to. For example, I've got pad focus here, so I'll hit the kick. I can see that's assigned to C1, but also D3. And if I go onto one of my other banks and I look at D3, I don't see it here, but I can trigger it and copy it. So instead of manually copying either with the right-click menu or by command dragging, we can use the assignment of a second pad here. And I'm going to program up a quick part and show you an interesting use for that. Here I've got this snare on D1, but also on F3. So I can program flams like that really easy. So I'm going to start by putting in a part. I'm going to record some bass drum first. Okay, it wasn't that accurate, but I've got input quantize on. It should be fine. Great, and I'm going to add some of that now. Okay, and I'm going to use command with the star key to capture the recording, the retrospective recording, and that should sound fine. But now I'm going to record some snare using both of these to get parts like that. And for this, I'm going to turn off input quantize. All right, and let's capture that retrospective recording. All right, let me duplicate this region, and then I'm going to make a couple of broad tweaks, then we'll move on. All right, that's working great. Now, the main thing I wanted to get to in this video is looking at these different trigger modes. And I'm going to start by taking the vocal sample and just chopping it up a bit. And let me do that, and I'll be right back. All right, I've chopped a few phrases up and colored them differently here. And I've got a new fresh instance of Impact XT. I'm going to change the color just so we don't get it confused with the version we have playing the drums here. And I've got a default set up with nothing assigned anywhere. And I'm going to start by just dragging these in. And I can trigger them from the instrument. But you hear they're all overlapping, and that's because they're in one-shot mode, meaning they play through till the length of the sample. I'm going to switch them each to normal, and let me just look at each one and trim them so they start right where I want them. And I'm going to set that one to normal as well. Tighten that up a bit and set that to normal. Same thing here. And finally, the last one. And now I can trigger them. And I can program my own vocal chops like that. But we can get even more creative. Like, for example, this. I like that. And I want to copy this down to this pad. And now it's on A1. And here, I'm going to set this to loop mode, where I can loop based on the start and end range. Maybe I want to get a bit of a buzz. You can get some cool effects like that. Now go to this pad. We can also play in reverse mode here to get some interesting effects. And we can normalize this so that the volume is changed so that the maximum peak in the waveform is right up under 0 dB. I'm not going to do that. But let's turn off this. And this as well. I'm going to take this and copy this to another pad. And now that's on A sharp 1. So here I'm going to do the same thing where I set this to loop mode. Now I can do the same thing. Now I'm finding it a little difficult to keep track of which loop is associated with which original sample, so I can easily rename these. And so on. Now we've got another mode here called toggle, and what that means is when this is engaged, when you trigger the note, it'll keep playing until you hit it again. So for example, I've taken my finger off the note, and now I've hit it again. So you may or may not want that. In this case, I don't, but I want to do it manually. So with this kind of thing, I can do my own kind of manual remix now. And so on like that. There's my retrospective recording, and it wasn't quantized, but let me just quantize that now. I transposed some of these loops, and I did a bit of amp offset, and I did a little bit of panning, and I added reverb for a nice creative effect. So a lot of fun and creative possibilities. We'll continue with more in the next video.